This is basically a documentation or a tutorial on how to use my new product called MicroScuff. It's basically a micro scratch generator which gives you this cool swirly scratch kind of effect and this cool reflection. It's a really powerful node. It can be applied to any material, as you can see here. And there's a bit of a learning curve on how to use it. So this video is gonna basically explain you how to use this node effectively. And I'm gonna show you how to make these 4 materials as like a demo. I don't know. Let me first show you how to install it. This is a clean blend file with a sphere and a material attached to it. When you download the file from Blender Market or Patreon, it will come in a zip format like this, along with a texture file. That's only there in case you misplace texture file within this folder. Click extract it and then save this folder somewhere you would remember, like a asset library or an asset folder. Then go into your fresh blend file, click on file, append, and find the folder where you saved it. Click on the blend file, then click on node tree and click on the MicroScuff node tree. This will now allow the MicroScuff node group to show up in your shader editor search, as you can see here. I already installed it, that's why it shows 2 of them. And yeah, that's how you install it. Now let me go over the inputs and the outputs of this node. A MicroScuff node group basically comes with 7 outputs. It has a shader output, which you can use to add on top of your pre-existing materials. The blending output helps you blend between the pre-existing material and this node group. This node group is meant to be used in conjunction with pre-existing node groups such as the principal BSDF, and hence these roughness, normals, anisotropic and anisotropic rotation outputs are basically inputs for the principal BSDF. You'll understand this a bit better in a few moments. The scratch mask basically gives you a black and white result of whatever this node group is doing. In the input side, we have blending. The blending basically controls how much the node group will blend with your pre-existing material. The roughness basically controls the roughness of the scratch layer. It is meant to be used in pairs with your pre-existing material. Reflection shape basically controls how your reflection will appear. In this case, you can see the reflection is circular. When I change the reflection shape, basically gives this cross kind of appearance. That's what the reflection shape does. Texture strength basically defines how strong the texture will appear on the surface, value being 1 being the maximum and 0 being the minimum. Next up we have scale. It controls the scale of the texture file. As you can see here, 1 makes it really big and increasing it makes it smaller and smaller. Next up we have the mask input. This input basically makes this node modular. You can use this input add on to your scratch layer. For example, I put a noise node into it along with color ramp, and this will basically affect where the texture appears on the surface. Mask input layer is directly connected to scratch mask layer, so when you make any alterations here, it will reflect directly to the output over here. Next is the texture coordinate input. It basically takes in the input from the texture coordinate node. It gives you flexibility on how you want to project your scratch texture on your object, UV being the best one. Next up we have the sparkle input. The use of this node can be broken down into 2 parts, micro scratches part and this customized reflection look. When you render reflections, these specular highlights are usually circular or take up the shape of the geometry or the shape of the light, but this node group allows you to change that. By increasing the sparkle input under the sparkle panel, you can add this star kind of shape, which gives your reflections a bit more depth and realism. The rotation part basically defines how the sparkle rotates on the surface, and you can also give the sparkle a different color than the color of the surface itself. The diffuse override, we'll get to this later when we are applying this node group to a diffuse surface. So now let's just make these 4 surfaces, that being metal, glass, polished varnished wood and marble. Starting off with the metal, over here I have a subdivided UV sphere with a principal BSDF attached in its material input, metallic being up, roughness being down, base color all the way white. To get only the scratches, you bring on your MicroScuff node, attach the roughness to the roughness of the principal BSDF, attach the normals to the normals, and in your specular, attach the anisotropic to the anisotropic and the anisotropic reflection to the anisotropic reflection. Next up, add your texture coordinate, input the UV, and yeah, that's your basic setup done for the metal. Increase the scale of the scratch texture and voila, that's your scratch texture. Reduce the strength, 0.15 works the best for me on metals, and that's how you get the circular scratches. Moving on to how you add those sparkly bits, all you gotta do is add a mix shader in front of your principal BSDF, plug in the shader output of the MicroScuff node group into the mix shader and the blending into the mix shader, and that's your basic setup done. Change the blending as you please. Under sparkle, change the amount, and as you can see at around 0.7 I get these beautiful sparkles on my metallic shader. Without doing this, without adding the mix shader part, you wouldn't get these sparkles, so make sure you do this step, and then you can tweak around with the rotation and the color of the sparkles or whatever fits your need. And yeah, that's the metal done. Now how to change the scratch texture. The file which you downloaded from Blender Market or Patreon comes with 6 types of scratch textures. The 6 textures are high density curved, high density straight, low density curved, low density straight, short curved, and short straight. To make it easier on your VRAM, I've included 3 resolutions for each of the following textures. And to change the scratch texture, all you have to do is press onto this node group button. This will lead you inside to the node group, and now you have this normal map input box and this scratch mask / roughness input box. So all you have to do is click on this open image. You can find your MicroScuff folder. In that there is the scratch texture folder. I wish there was an easier way to do this without going through all these steps, but this is what I found the best to work with. Suppose I want to use the short straight texture. I'd go into this. I want to use the 4K one, press the 4K, and since we are selecting the normal image right now, I would press the SS normal 4K PNG. This will update the texture file. It will also change the color space to sRGB, and since it's normals, it has to be in non-color. Make sure you do this or else you'll mess up your reflections. As you can see, in non-colors you get these accurate reflections over here, but when it's in sRGB, the reflections are shifted a bit, and this compounds when you try to change the parameters of the node group. So set it into non-color. That's really important. And also, now you did the normal map, you got to do the same thing with the scratch map. Open the short straight 4K folder and then open the SS BW 4K. SS stands for short straight, BW black and white 4K image. Next up we have the glass shader. Again, this is really similar to setup as the metal shader. Let me just duplicate this sphere, assign a new material, add glass BSDF. That's a normal glass. To set up only the micro scratches, bring in your MicroScuff node group, add the roughness to roughness and the normals to normals. Increase the scale, add in your texture coordinate, reduce the roughness a little bit. That's your glass shader. If you want to add the sparkles, again mix shader, put the blending into the blending and the shader into the shader. Turn this on, and yeah, that's the complete glass shader. Moving on to the varnished wood shader. Again, make a new sphere, assign it a new material. This time, since you want a wood texture on it, you just assign it a wood texture. In my case, I'm exporting it from Quixel Bridge. That is the wood texture. Since you want a layer of varnish or coat on it, you just increase the weight of the coat layer and give it a bit of a tint. Yeah, that's your layer of varnish. To add your scratches, import your MicroScuff node group, add the normals to the normals of the coat layer and the roughness into the roughness of the coat layer, and that's your micro scratches setup. Increase the scale, add the texture coordinate, and that's scratches on a wood surface done. To add the sparkly bits, again add mix shader, add the blending to the blending and the shader to the shader, and now it kind of looks weird. It shouldn't be this reflective, and since it's a diffuse material, this is where the diffuse override part comes in. What you have to do is switch it on all the way to 1 and keep increasing the fix till the reflections just fade out, till these weird reflecting bits just fade out, but leave behind these specular highlights. And then you can increase the amount of sparkle, increase the fix. 0.85 should do the trick here. Make it like 9 to really push the effect. Yeah, that's beautiful. Sometimes the fix or the diffuse override part might not work, and that's because this lighting would not produce such a reflection. As you can see in this HDRI, the sparkly bits are not that visible. That's because these lights which are producing it are not that powerful, like not that strong to produce those sparkly bits. But in the other HDRI, you can see a clear star appear over here. You just have to fine tune this fixed number to get the most out of this reflection without overpowering it with the other bit. And yeah, that's the diffuse surface covered. Moving on, we have the marble. Bring in a new surface, assign it a new material. In this case, I'm gonna import a marble material from Quixel Bridge. Yeah, assign it the marble material. Now to add scratches, again, just bring in your MicroScuff node group. In this case, since the marble texture comes with the roughness of its own, you add the roughness to the roughness of the MicroScuff node group and then plug the roughness of that into the roughness of the principal BSDF. Add the normals to the normals, and that's your scratches setup. Increase the scale, add your texture coordinate, and those are the scratches setup. Now if you want to add the sparkly bits, again add your mix shader, put the blending into the blending and shader into the shader. Now it'll become really shiny. Increasing the amount brings out that sparkle, but you can see this is like unnecessarily glossy. This is not how the plain principal BSDF was. So to fix that, again turn on the diffuse override and crunch the fixed number until you get a satisfactory result, and that's how you apply it to diffuse marble shader. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you understood how to use this node group. Check out my socials. The product is available on Patreon and Blender Market. The links are in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below and I'll answer them. Thanks for watching. Bye.